What if the AI agency everyone's waiting for already exists? Daniel Gilbert says the future isn't man or machine, it's both. And agencies that don't move fast, they won't survive the next wave.
If it wasn't clear already, AI is not a fad, like it is part of the future of our existence. And whoever is not building products and capabilities that are AI enabled will fall behind.
Welcome to the DesignRush podcast, where we unpack how top innovators are reshaping the future of design, business, and technology. I'm your host, Kia Johnson. Today, I'm joined by Daniel Gilbert, founder and CEO of Brainlabs, the performance marketing powerhouse behind brands like Google, Meta, and Formula One. And these leadership, Brainlabs has become one of the world's most awarded digital agencies, redefining how data, AI, and creativity work together. Daniel shares how AI is reshaping media buying, decision-making, and culture, and why systems, not hype, drive real innovation. If you lead a brand, agency, or tech team, hit subscribe. Every week, we share ideas shaping how creativity and tech power the next era of business. Dan, it is such a pleasure to have you here today on the DesignRush podcast. Now, Dan, you've built Brainlabs into one of the most recognized digital agencies in the world. You've also been named among the most influential voices in digital marketing. Under your leadership, Brainlabs has worked with brands like Adidas and Estee Lauder and so many others. Throughout your journey, you've worked with so many businesses. If you were to provide some solid insight into what really sets the best agencies apart, what would you say that is?
I think it's a relentlessness over and above anything else, like a total desire to be the absolute best and to find opportunity where others aren't willing to look. And I think if you'd asked me that question maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, I would have had a more technical, less mindset driven piece. But as we've seen, like the advent of different channels and different media and different ways that people are searching or interacting on the web, that's the piece that really sticks out to me, is like, what is your desire to like push beyond what you thought was possible and to keep finding opportunities? That's my kind of take. There's the kind of mindset, which is relentlessness, but you can actually, as an agency, build that into your systems and your culture. And that's something that very proud Brainlabs has done since the beginning, is have this maniacal like focus on process, so that the constant and never-ending improvement. So everything has to be documented. The person with documenting stuff is not to remove creativity, but actually the opposite, to enable creativity, so that someone can say, this is how it's done, and this is therefore how I can improve it, because I know what the kind of base level of how everyone else is doing this. And there are like ways to do that, right? Which is changed over the years, but like fundamentally comes back to, are you willing to describe what you're doing as a process? That's what I've tried to instill as a kind of mantra, but also a system within Brainlabs. And regardless of the service mix that we've had, which has changed and developed and moved and innovated over the years, that is the mentality and the systems-based thinking that I've tried to deliver within the business. And it's no coincidence that we've scaled as fast as we have. Like, it's not an accident, right? We didn't accidentally wake up and grow to 1,000 people. You have to be completely driven and systematic and ahead of what you are not yet in order to be ready for that.
Well, I guess it's not just the process, but it's also like being in the state of refinement all the time, which I guess in essence is part of the process, because you're just constantly refining and refining and refining. And that is very important. But I do believe and I do agree with you, just in terms of having that foundational structure, like it's so important. And things don't just happen by accident. It takes a lot of hard work, determination, perseverance, and just having that gumption at the end of the day, and just being able to blend that into where you see yourself, where the goal is, where that bigger picture is, and just to achieve that. Yeah. So speaking about things like evolving and changing and just everything, gosh, we are living in such a day and age right now. And there are so many changes. I just think about it like, 20 years back, who would have thunk it? You know what I mean? And right now it's AI. The the word. It's like it's the buzzword, and it's a buzzword we're not getting tired of because there's so many things that are currently happening at the moment. And what I would like to find out from you is, I mean, how has AI itself actually found its way into your media planning or your campaign processes? I'd love for you to actually walk us through an example where you've actually used AI in like a real world campaign itself.
Yeah, I mean, there's like 18 different angles to answer that question. Like that even the scope of the AI impact is a personal level. Like even with some health optimization stuff that I've taken on, which is very indirect, but has an impact on business as well. Right? Like if you're able to be more energetic, you can bring more to work. And I've had some amazing examples with like health breakthroughs. But that's not the topic for today. Like the more specifics around campaign planning or how it's impacting Brainlabs or how we're impacting the industry is probably twofold. One is for how we use AI internally for processes, connected but slightly separate, which is like how do we help clients get visibility on AI? So AI SEO or GEO or there's a few different names for it, like generative visibility, whatever. But we like AI visibility because that speaks to how do you get presence on these engines where people are now discovering like products, brands, advice, etc. The interesting thing is that it's kind of old and new worlds combined. And the basic answer to the question of how do I, as a brand, get visibility on ChatGPT or Perplexity or Gemini or Grok is purist marketing, which is do great work, market that really well. And there are some ways to game the machines at the moment, a bit like the old days of SEO where you could sort of do lots of links, this kind of thing. But the gist of it is that like world-class capability in technical SEO, in content, in YouTube videos, in podcasts, in what people are saying about you online. That's why these engines have been so useful, is because they do really discover information and do a great job of synthesizing that information and giving good answers to people that are asking those questions. So how do you gain visibility? Well, it's like it's another way of asking, how do I do brilliant marketing? Right? It's not necessarily a super straightforward answer to that. There's like a bunch of systematic pillars that you need to get really good at, including in each of those disciplines, and some games that you still need to play, including, by the way, some different answers for different engines, which is the other really exciting part. Is like the methodology is not the same for Perplexity as it might be for Grok. They're looking at different sources. But one of the answers is actually like contained within there is deliver a really good service or product. Because you can't outmarket a poor product. Like if people are saying great things about you, that gets picked up by the LLMs. If people are saying bad things about their experience, that will also get picked up. So now it needs a dose of reality, not just like search engine optimization. Right? It's not just about how do we game Google? It's about how do we actually deliver a brilliant customer experience, which I think is really cool personally. So that's like on the how do we like approach that? It's a whole new almost discipline, right? Like it's a bunch of marketing, but with a new layer, which is AI visibility. But a lot of CMOs, brand managers, marketing directors are investing in and thinking about now and appointing agencies like ours to maintain or increase their visibility, because there's a big price for that, which is it's a great way, and it's now the original way for an increasing number. I can't even keep track of the stats because it's changing daily, but like it's an increasing number of people that are searching for, discovering, or being introduced to products and services through ChatGPT, Grok, and Gemini, including my own mum, who rang me and said, "What's this ChatGPT thing?" And I don't, now I do everything on this. I'd say if my mum is discovering stuff, then we're past that adoption curve. There's that technology adoption curve. Early adopters, middle adopters. She's on the later side.
No, but I do hear you. I do hear you. It's so interesting because about a year or so ago, a couple of podcast interviews back, There was a gentleman that came on, and he was also talking about how it's very important that you make yourself visible in not just like one space. You now have to make yourself visible in all these different spaces, so that obviously the LLMs can actually pick you up, and you can obviously be marketing yourself there as well. So it really has changed from this almost, I would say, and I'm hoping I'm saying it right here, but like almost like this traditional SEO, into what it is right now, and how things have changed considerably. But yeah, very, very interesting.
Well, the other way of expressing what you were just describing is that now it's not about optimizing for keywords, it's about optimizing for themes or topics. Because in ChatGPT, your search is going to be different to mine, and your context engineering is different to mine. Like you have a history, you have custom instructions, you've got a different set of queries and reference points. That means we will end up with two potentially very different answers, which is the incredibly powerful thing about it, but also changes some of the framing and thinking about, like, you can't just say, what's my position on Google, like you used to be able to do in technical SEO, which would be the same for you and I, no matter where we were and no matter what we were doing, which I think has just changed the measurement framework or the way of thinking about it, but in a way that's, like, in some ways just much more pure marketing. So I kind of like it. I'm here for it, and like we're excited about the changes. Like, I think it's great.
Yeah, that is exciting. Very much so. Definitely.
Yeah.
So then, do you have a specific campaign where AI really made a difference, like one where it had a measurable impact on the outcome that you can share with us today?
I don't know that we've got, like, it's more that we've embedded AI into all of our processes that are helping with every campaign. So there's not a single campaign that we're running today that doesn't have some form of AI support in creating it. It's end to end in terms of our methodology. So every single process within the business has AI support next to it, right? Like it's even down to like our culture codes and the way that we operate as a business. They're like supported by AI. We have one called big brain thinking, which is akin to like the metaphor we use is like the invention of the calculator back in the day that my great uncle told me about when they first bought this massive calculator to the office. I was gathered around looking at it, and it's like, well, the purists were like, oh, we're going to all forget how to do arithmetic. But like the early adopters were like, oh, this makes sense. Like, we can use this to do our jobs more accurately and more efficiently, and we need to know the shortcomings of this technology. But there's not an accountancy firm in the world today that would deny utilization of calculators and more. You see it in some of the companies that we work with, where like ChatGPT or OpenAI tools and Gemini, they're banned. Like you're not allowed to. We're like the opposite, which is we've got open access to pretty much all of the tools, and we're working through the pros and cons of different tools and what they can bring for different disciplines, which is the other exciting part. Is there's not one absolute winner in any particular area. Like Claude seems to lead for code, and our development teams are all using Claude. Google's VO is very good for like image generation, for example. There's like each of them has very different capabilities and strengths and weaknesses, which I think is really cool. It's not as clear cut like when Google broke through. It was like Google is the best. It's better than Ask Jeeves. It's better than like whatever, Lycos, whatever it was back in the day. It seems that there's going to be more diversity of or competitive environment for this time around, which I think is just great for development.
It is.
It is, right? Like it can be overwhelming for people, which is the downside. But I think, yes, a super net positive, which is why we're seeing so much development and release of features, is because it's like there's a race, right? Like they're all shipping stuff as quickly as they can to keep up with each other. And this is it, this is cool. Like, we haven't seen this level of pace of development like 10, 15 years time. Like it reminds me of early cert players, it's really cool. Love it.
You're speaking about how you've managed to actually integrate AI into your processes, but there's so many other agencies that are actually doing the same. And in your experience, what would you then say is one of the most common mistakes that agencies make when they're integrating AI?
Like making mistakes is part of our process, right? Like trial and error and like error correction. So rather than speak about mistakes that other agencies have made, it might be a better frame of reference, even though you didn't think I was going to answer in that way, to talk about our own mistakes and then error corrections. I think, in that sense, maybe this is like a kind of learning curve that people have with these LLMs. It's all exciting when it first comes out and everyone thinks, wow, this is like giving me amazing answers. But there's this interesting behavioral science observation, I don't know how else I'll describe it, called the Gell-Mann amnesia effect. And it describes this phenomenon where you are an expert in something, hopefully, and you will read something online or in the papers about an area that you know really well, and you'll realize that the author doesn't know what they're talking about because you're such a deep expert, right? Like it's in your area and you really understand this space. They're just either factually incorrect or just the wrong conclusion from information put together. Some people have experienced that, right? Like a lot of people have, if you read about your favorite topic in like a mainstream newspaper, you realize like the journalist is not an expert, right? They're just writing about something. So lots of people have experienced that, like where they go into a domain that they understand. But what happens with most people is that they'll read that article, they'll realize that it makes some incorrect assumptions, all of this wrong. They'll turn the page to the next topic and they'll continue reading it as if it was true. And you can apply this effect to LLMs, which is if you ask it a question about something that you know really well, it will often get it wrong. But then you ask it about an area that you don't know anything about and you just kind of assume that it's right because, like it looks right. Like there's that Gell-Mann amnesia. You're forgetting that it's not always accurate, even though there's a big note at the bottom saying it can make mistakes. But like willfully ignore that piece. But it just genuinely can and does genuinely hallucinate / make stuff up / generate stuff that is not true. And you've seen it happen, but then you go to, like I say, you go to a new area you know nothing about, you should know better, but you just carry on, right? Like, it's like, well, you don't know anything about it, so how would you know to correct it, right? It's a really interesting effect, right? Something that is, has wider societal impact, but is super visible in the LLMs or is observable in the LLMs because each person, to my earlier point, gets different answers. So what's the conclusion from this? They're very powerful tools, but you also need to know how to use them. And there is a skill to doing that. And some of that relates back into like, how do they generate answers? Even going back to foundational principles of like how the LLMs work, not in like a computer science kind of way, because that would be a bit distant for most people to understand. But how are they actually generating answers so that you know the information that you're getting and how to actually rationalize and use that information? And the point failure versus the calculator is that a calculator will give you the right answer every time. So my analogy in terms of that technology piece starts to fall apart when you apply it to LLMs because it says it in the name, they're generative. If you really understand the basis of it, it's like ones and zeros. So it's like calculating probabilities. There's a great paper that I can reference and maybe you can link to afterwards. That it's a long article, but it's worth reviewing because it explains what generative actually is, which is it's generating answers based on a series of probabilities. And in that sense, you've seen some debate about this. It's not thinking, it's deriving, right? Like it's generating. And, the extension of that is that if you give it too much information, right, the conflicts, humans know how to like process that and then resolve conflicting information like they have to. Machines can get confused, but on top of that, like it will direct you towards what you're telling it to generate. So if you tell me like how to do marketing, it will give you an average answer. Like it will give you a generic answer. If you say to it, tell me how to do marketing according to the principles of Dan Gilbert, it will give you a completely different answer because I don't think that the way that most people do marketing is the right way to do things, right? Like otherwise I wouldn't exist and have a marketing agency and have a method and have an approach, right? So the answer will be completely different. And like that's helps frame things for people, I think, in a way where it's like, it will give you the average. It will default to the average. And the average is not always right. In fact, mostly it's not in most instances. And I think that was like, I always knew how the machines worked, but I had to remind myself that it's like, it's following instructions, right? It's not sentient, even though like a lot of the LLMs are kind of geared to feeling like they're your friend or that they're personable, and they use some of that is like the patterns. Right? It's like in that way to make you want to interact more, but they're not. They're like it's a ridiculous idea. They are machines. Like they will work towards how you direct them, and therefore, if you're in control and you direct them, give you another example, right? If you say, "How do I do a great podcast?" It will give you like the average of the internet, right? Like it will take guidance and it will have like, I don't know, inputs from a bunch of different places, and it'll give you the kind of general rules for running a good podcast. I'm sure there are certain podcasts that you aspire or believe are really well run, ask interesting questions, do something different. If you asked, how do I run my podcast through the lens of these 3 people who I really respect, you'll get completely different answers. Good answers. Like, now, in order to arrive at who those 3 people are, you've had to exercise great judgment, right? You've had to say, those podcasts suck or like aren't appropriate for me. These 3 is like what I value. They're authentic to me. That's what I appreciate. That's how I want to run my own podcast. That's true to my audience. That's when you start unlocking the magic. And that's the difference between someone that uses one of these LLMs as a search engine versus someone that's using it as a co-pilot, right? Like as someone to assist with work, which I think is like cool, right? That's multiple levels of being able to, there are many levels beyond that, but that's like level 1 to 2.
I think this is so fascinating, the way that you are unpacking all of this. I have to be honest with you. I'm probably one of those people that at times, and this is maybe also to do with just the way things are right now, having to execute things that you kind of like, you're on a deadline, you need to get it done, and then you just sit and you take whatever answer you get, and you actually start going down like this hallucinogenic rabbit hole, which just like spirals and spirals and spirals. And I have found myself very frustrated. So someone actually said to me that the trick is actually that when you start out right on the top with your instructional process, it's like you have to really be very intentional right at the beginning. And if you're going to like keep on unpacking and giving too many new instructions here, it just becomes a complete mess, and thereby giving what you've just been talking about, the average answer. I think that I'm assuming this is how you at Brainlabs, how you actually unpack everything, because you do it with such intention. But I also know you've got that background as well, so you know exactly how all these processes with these LLMs work. I think that's amazing. And this actually brings me to my next question, right? Because I was very impressed when I saw the Estee Lauder campaign, for example. There's this integration of like AI, and there was this aspect of humanness as well, So what are then the areas that you actually intentionally keep human-led? And then how do you decide when AI should take the lead? Because this integration, it was such a seamless integration. I absolutely loved, learning about it. And I thought, wow, like these guys have got it. So I'm curious to find that out from you. Yeah.
It's like, it all has to relate back to the business challenge and that specific customer in that specific time. There's like plenty of clients for whom a human-only message is important now more than anything else. There's others that want to be bleeding edge for AI, like and really be known for being AI first. It's important to them for different reasons. And I think that's the fun part of being an agency, is that you get to operate across that spectrum and work out what is the appropriate level to pitch this at for the different brands that you're working with. So you can see like the market at this point, and actually even within certain brands certain like holdcos that we work with that have different brands, you can even see how like each of them is going in a different direction. Like one which is going like human first, we value human interaction, and the others which are going AI first, which is we've got the most efficient AI systems. I think it's like fascinating. I just think it's a great time to be alive. Like, and it's a fascinating time to be a marketing agency. While people are trying to work out their AI strategy. As it relates to the agency space, as an agency business, you're always trying to work out what's a fad and what's real. And there've been many fads, right? Like there's been like the Google goggles, the metaverse. Like there's supposed to be advertising in the metaverse, and we're all going to buy ads space in the metaverse. Like we never jumped on that. Like if it wasn't clear already, AI is not a fad. Like it is part of the future of our existence, and whoever is not building products and capabilities that are AI enabled will fall behind. I say this to the people that work in Brainlabs. Sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't, which is like, I don't mean this in a threatening way. Thank goodness we're growing, not shrinking. But, for your own career benefit, like move out of level 0, right? Get to level 5, please, of like your depth of AI knowledge. Like if I can find time as a CEO to be sandboxing, to be playing around, to be building tools, to be building workflow automations in the background, like, you can and should too if you care about your career development. Thankfully, most Brainlabbers are obsessed with career development and high achievement, so that's why they join and they want to continue with it. But outside of Brainlabs and even in some pockets, it took a lot of corralling, and there are still people that sort of like haven't found time for it yet. And I'm like, it's been like that. Those quotes I've seen about meditation, where it's like, oh, I don't have time to meditate. It's like, oh, well, you need it even more. The people that have not found time to adopt AI and figure out how these tools can serve them, they need it more than anyone else. Please, if you're listening to this and like you took nothing else from this interview, like just go and play tools and see what you can do, like analyze them. Like there's even like no code solutions that are totally accessible to everyone, where you can like automate basic parts of your life, some of which can like really improve. Like my life has got so much better since the advent of AI, because it's like menial stuff that I used to do that I don't have to do anymore.
Yeah,
I put a LinkedIn
time consuming.
Yeah, like I put this LinkedIn post. I've actually shared it, so it's worth linking to. Like I've open sourced it. One of my colleagues and I, like, we realized that I'm not only working when I'm in the office, right? Like I'm a CEO with a busy life and lots of things going on at any time, and I'm always thinking about work. I don't want to log into my computer or get distracted with work if I'm out for a walk. I also don't want to lose the idea or the train of thought or whatever it is. So I've now got this app on my phone where I can press record. It takes a voice transcription of, it's just a recording app. It's nothing fancy. It uploads it to Google Drive. There's an agent now that goes into that Google Drive, puts it into a spreadsheet, transcribes it using AI, transposes it like using AI, so like removes any kind of grammatical errors or like speech features. And then from there, depending on what I've triggered it with, can draft an email, turn it into a LinkedIn post, send feedback to someone on Slack, or send a note to my assistant saying, please do this. Like awesome, because there's people that I wouldn't have given feedback to before just because I've forgotten or because something else had happened or it was too busy. Whereas like now it's like, send feedback to so-and-so saying, you did a great job at this presentation. Here's like 3 other pointers for you. It's like my feedback stats have gone up by like 100% since we built this tool. It's like really cool. We did it all in 2 hours.
Amazing. Okay, and now you're making me feel as if I really need to integrate AI so much more into my own life, because I'm definitely not doing so. Wow.
And I've done my job here. That's the whole point, isn't it?
Yes, 100%. So, Dan, when you're actually thinking about AI solutions, how do you decide whether it's better to build your own tools in-house, buy something off the shelf, or actually partner with other vendors? I mean, what's your decision-making process there?
Yeah, good question. The answer is like we are a tech-enabled agency business. So that has some like different definitions in different places, but the way that we understand that is that we're a services business enabled by tech. We're not a SaaS business, nor do we have ambitions to be so. Structurally, therefore, our setup is different. And I've seen many agencies make this mistake where they get excited because they built some tech and go down like, oh, we're going to be a tech company and scale across the world. Like, no, if you don't have the right corporate structure and funding structure, that is not going to happen. You're a services business, be really good at services, be super focused on that. So our kind of process is, our job is to license and buy 95% of our tech stack and build 5%. We have a world-class engineering team, 50 people dedicated to building technology. It's super, but that is the 5% that no one else can do or is not available in any of the tools on the market. And that happens in the services businesses because there's always these new products coming out or new capabilities and services coming out. So our job is to build while there are no gaps filled by any third-party tools. And then as soon as a third-party tool comes along that has that capability and can do it better and do it for multiple clients, we sunset that piece of technology. And that's the pattern that we go through over and over and over, which means that at any given moment in time, we've got a bunch of cool tools that enable us to do stuff that no one else can do, but we're not like rebuilding the whole tech ecosystem that you can just buy out of the box that is available through people that are dedicated to doing that. And part of that came through scars of like having brilliant engineers and then finding ourselves like one day being like, ooh, like we're basically trying to rebuild Salesforce or HubSpot. Like, I don't think that's a good use of our capital or time. And I've got a feeling we're not going to compete with that more. Like another one where it was like, oh, we're just building HR software. So I'm sure there's lots of other people that do that. How do we shift mentality? So, you know, we try and stay hyper focused on the roadmap. The thesis is like build fast, sunset fast. So build stuff, but also kill stuff. Like if something better comes along. Sometimes it takes a few months. In other instances, it takes a few years. Like if you think about how long it takes to build a technology company, from when something becomes a challenge, which we see earlier the most because we have account managers actually in the tools, in the market, working on stuff, the time that it takes from identifying a challenge, which we would do early on, versus a technology company has come and solved that with some tech, can take a while because you like have to identify the problem, identify that it's a scary problem, raise money to solve that problem, go and build the technology to solve that problem, raise a second round, market it, sell it to clients. And it's like, that can take ages. So that's kind of the place that we play.
Now, speaking about tools and platforms, is there anything specific that your team relies on? Like anything you do regularly that actually keeps like your AI game sharp?
I'll answer like more through process, which is we keep an open dialogue between the people that are doing the work and the people that are building the tools. So our product teams are very closely connected to the people that are doing the work. That creates like, 1,000 account managers across our business or product managers across our business. They're constantly feeding back on the tools and what they want to see built, which is different to a tech company that might have one or two product managers that are supposed to centralize feature builds, collect feedback from customers, and then feed that into the product roadmap for their engineers. We have like a much more kind of direct ecosystem, which has pros and cons. The obvious pro being that you're constantly connected to what are real challenges that people are facing. The other one is like from the top, like I show all the time internally in our Slack channels, the stuff that I'm playing with, and I record and share interviews that I've done with people internally on tools that they're building, celebrate that work. We call it out in our town halls, we call it out in our all hands. That just keeps that kind of freshness going. We keep a log as well, like all the different tools that people are playing with, and gather case studies on stuff that they've built through that, and then share that back with the org. So like, I think it's like a cultural thing as well, right? Like, what's the cool work that's being done? Like, let's celebrate and share it.
We've been chatting so much about just AI itself here. You and I are clearly very excited about this, but there's so many agency leaders who actually would feel very skeptical or even overwhelmed by all this hype. So if you were to give like some advice to help cut through that noise and actually make sense of it all, like what would you say to them?
Just get started, right? Like it's not, that's why I've tried to keep everything today like relatable. It's like of like day-to-day examples, like just start using it and like, but be like mindful and critical as you're using it, right? Like read online about some stuff that other people are doing. Follow people like me that are putting out there, hey, like I've just built this tool or like done this thing. Look less at like for hot takes and I don't know, whatever goes on LinkedIn feeds and like just like hone in and like play with this stuff. There's like literally no other way and like no secret source to it beyond trying stuff out and then building your knowledge base from there and like trial and error, like anything good.
Don't you think it's also, there's this like huge fear that some people have, when and I think that's actually the biggest issue is that they see this mountain in front of them and thinking to themselves, how are they going to get over it? And it really is about just start, just start it. Yeah.
That's the answer in your analogy of the mountain. The only way to get up the mountain is take a step. One step is better than none. And you're asking, that's less technical question that is psychological, which I think, goes all the way back to entrepreneurship. It's like, how do you overcome fear? It's especially if you know that it's good for you, as in like most people probably recognize at this stage that AI should be part of their strategy. So there's no irrational, it's not like a phobia, right? Like it's not an irrational fear. It is an irrational fear. It's not a rational fear, as in it's not going to harm you. I do this with like cold water. So the only way to get over your fear of cold water is get in the cold water. I train myself to get in the cold water. It's like, you're kidding. It's never fun, right? Like you don't ever look and think, oh, I can't wait to get in the cold water. You just get in, right? And that's so like psychologically, like if you operate in that way, you're continually training your brain to say, I can do things that I previously thought were scary, or I can do things that I currently think are scary. We might be going like a bit off track here, but like you're asking like fundamental, like psychological questions, like how do I drive myself to do it? It's like the answer is do it. Like there's no guru, no like mindset, no process, no technology that's going to solve it for you. Like get out your own way and just do it.
And just do it. I like that. So where do you think AI is going to take media agencies, like in the next 3 to 5 years?
I think it will create a moment in the future where all of the things that people currently accuse AI of destroying become the most valuable skills. So creativity at some point will become the differentiator. But on top of that, like good judgment. And I kind of alluded to this earlier. Our jobs in the future will become about like how to digest lots of information and then decide which path is right. What is the right method, and then direct the AI tools accordingly. So people will start to realize that we're all going to have access to the same LLMs. Who can direct them in the right way is the ultimate winner. But I don't think we'll be doing much of the. We've already automated half of what a bunch of other media agencies still do and had done 5 years ago as well. Like even a few years ago, the concept of like Monday morning reporting in manual Excel spreadsheets, we thought was quite funny because we've automated it all. Like it's still happening now. It still happens. So I think the day-to-day tasks will disappear.
Yeah, and that I think is some great news, to be honest, because the day-to-day can sometimes take so much out of the day.
Yeah, 100%. I think the other big opportunity is just consolidation of information. And that's where, like, I don't know, I can't predict at this precise moment, like, where the platforms will take us. But I do understand and recognize that today, like, a simple test for this, like how many tabs do you have open on a given day? Like information sits in just too many places. And where I think LLMs become potential operating partners or operating systems within companies is where they can really plug into all of that information, connect it, but then also connect it to actions. So I can look at everything in one place and then take action from there in context, which I think is one of the most exciting developments like in the next couple of years.
I can't believe we've come to the end of our conversation, because I literally feel like I can be chatting for the next couple of hours with you. It was lovely to meet you as well. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Thank you for sharing your insights, just your experience as well. It has been so insightful, and I definitely know that our audience would love every single piece of nugget that you've shared here today. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you for your time.
I hope it helps, and it's such a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for your time.
Curious about what top brands look for when choosing an agency? Tune into our latest episodes where we reveal the decision-making secrets of leading brands. Subscribe to the DesignRush podcast and stay ahead of the competition.